Where did you first grow up?
I grew up in Richland, Missouri.
And what was your childhood like?
It was awesome. My childhood was awesome. I lived in Richland until I was 13, and then Grandma and Grandpa, Aunt Sherry and I, your great aunt, we moved to Springfield after Grandpa broke his back and he had back surgery. We moved up to Springfield. Actually, we moved to Springfield for about a month, and then we moved to Republic. I started 7th grade there and did junior high and high school in Republic, Missouri.
All right. Who was your favorite relatives?
Gosh, I had lots of aunts and uncles because my dad came from a family of 17 kids, but 14 that were living. And I had tons of cousins. I don't know, today my favorite cousin is Lana, which is Dad's sister's daughter. But I couldn't back then because I just grew up around them all. We were always fishing, camping. My mom and dad played music. So it was cool. It was cool.
Do you remember any of the stories they used to tell you?
Oh, yeah. Especially this one story about fishing one night. Up on the bluff, they thought they heard a woman screaming. So they were packing up their stuff and looking, and trying to get their stuff all together. And Grandma got caught up in some fishing line, and they were getting it. They were getting out of there. You know what it turned out to be? A black panther.
Wow.
Panthers sound just like women screaming.
That's scary.
So, anyway, I'll never forget that story.
What was your mom and dad like growing up?
Oh, it was okay. We just went fishing a lot. My dad played music, which is your great-grandpa. We used to go dig worms down by the river, which they were worms. They would look like, to me back then, they looked like small snakes, but they were called night crawlers.
Yeah.
But we don't do that. They don't do that no more. They don't allow that. And then my grandma and her second husband, my step-grandpa, they used to sell them night crawlers. Yeah. And they made a living by it. But Grandpa played music, and then Mom learned to play the bass guitar, and they had a band. They had a band all my life. Until the last few years when they got older, and Grandpa retired from auto body. Dad did auto body work. Mom never worked. Dad wouldn't let her because he said a woman's place was in the home. So.
Okay. When and where did you grow up?
Huh?
When and where were you born, I mean?
I was born in Waynesville, Missouri,
okay,
which is over by Fort Leonard Wood, because Richland is in between Lebanon and Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, which is an Army base. My grandmother worked at that Army base in the laundry department and retired from there. I was the first grandchild born into the Henry family. And when my grandmother died, she had 123 grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
Did you get into trouble?
I've never been in trouble in my life. I've never seen the inside of a jail cell. Not when I was younger. I'm almost 54, and I still ain't never seen one. And I plan to never do it.
Do you have any siblings? And what were they like growing up, if so?
I have one sibling, which is your great aunt Sherry.
Mm-hmm.
And we bickered and fought just like most siblings might do, because I only had one. But today we get along finally. And my mom and dad have been gone now 6.5 years. They were married 48 years, and they died 48 days apart. You know,
Yeah.
they say that happens a lot. And it was pretty rough. But we get along pretty good now.
How would you like to be remembered?
As a hard worker, a good mom, and a good grandma. But 8 years ago I had that bad stroke, so that kind of put a damper on what I can and can't do.
Yeah. Who's the most important person in your life, and can you tell me about him or her?
Oh, I don't know if I can say I have a most important person in my life. My grandkids are the most important people in my life. And, you was the biggest thing ever happened in my life. First, it was your mom. I did become a mom at a young age. But, and I got married young. Or what,
Yeah.
But, and then after you, more grandkids came. So I have 6 grandkids now.
Okay. When did you first find out you would be a parent, and how did you feel?
Okay. I first found out I was going to be a parent. I was actually a senior in high school, and I was 17 years old. Your mother was born in December of 1979, and then in February 1980 I turned, which was 2 months later, I turned 18. So yes, I was a young mother. And I was happy. I was happy about it. My mom and dad wasn't so happy with me, but I didn't plan for it to happen. It was kind of an accident, but things happen, I guess. I guess God meant for her to be here, or it wouldn't have happened.
Can you describe the moment when you first saw your child?
I was so proud of her. That was the most important. I was so proud of her. I was never more proud of anything else ever in my whole life at that time. And your mom is still a big, I love your mom a whole bunch.
Yeah.
I had your mom, and then 10.5 years later, I had Reed. So there's 10.5 years between your mother and your Uncle Reed.
Do you have any regrets?
On having my children?
On anything?
On anything? The only yes, I do. I do, honestly. I should have stayed with my first husband, and I should have worked out my problems instead of, just running away and trying to escape my problems and getting a divorce. But I was having a hard time because he was giving me a hard time. My mom and dad even thought that I should, take things under control and leave the situation. But I wish I'd have stayed and fought for my marriage.
Is there anything you would like to ask me, or something you've always wanted to know that I've never told you?
Well, not really, because you've been pretty honest about everything, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have any reason why.
Well, I think one thing turned out pretty good. Your mom's done real well, I think, with you kids. And I think Brad's been good for you, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
When in your life have you felt the most alone?
Kind of right now. Because I don't see you kids a lot, Your mom works full-time, and Brad works full-time, and then Reed's kids live out of town,
Yeah.
And, the past, 5 years, I mean, my stroke was 8 years ago, and I was in the hospital for a month. So that really put a damper on to me, you know. It limits me to what I can and cannot do.
What was the most saddest point in your life?
When I had my stroke and when my parents died. When my parents died.
Well, that's all the questions I have arranged for you today.
Cool.
Thank you.
You need some pictures?
Yes.